Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Josh. I am here to give you the top 10 best films of 2018. Now these are films that are personally my own opinion. They are not anybody else's. I chose these movies as movies that I felt were the strongest movies of the year for me and the ones I got the most enjoyment out of. Now with that out of the way, let us get started with number 10. The 10th film in the list being The First Purge. This is a very divisive film. This is a movie I don't know if it's going to even play out on anybody's top 10 list of the year. Maybe for horror aficionados, maybe, possibly. To me, I love this movie. I think this is the strongest of the Purge films. I think it's definitely the most well-developed film of the series, even though the film does not give you the real, official origin behind why it became to be. It kind of starts off right at the beginning when it's known as an experiment. It doesn't even have a title yet, and then it just develops from there. I like this film because I love the story and I love the characters in this movie. I actually enjoyed the characters in this movie more than I do any of the other Purge films. So that being said, I think this is a great movie and it definitely deserves a spot on my list. Now with number 9, I'm going to go with Ready Player One. I really like this movie. I felt like it should have been higher on the list, but there were just other films that I felt like that have more rewatchability than this film. I love the fact that this is outside the norm for me for a Steven Spielberg movie. Because this movie plays off like a nerd's biggest wet dream, just having every piece of nostalgia you can think of, from video games to films of the 80s, the 90s, and onward. It's just stockpiled with so many things you can see and stuff like that. And what's great about this movie as well is the fact that you also kind of need to watch it a couple times to see if you pinpoint every single little thing that you saw in it. I like the fact that it has that ability to do that, where you want to watch it again to see how many more things you can find. So that's a great little that's a genius piece of filmmaking for me, and I love this movie a lot. I think it's a great film. Now, number 8 is going to, and people are going to be like, why did you not put this lower on the list? But I love this movie, and that is The Strangers Prey at Night. I love this movie because it's totally different. It's tonally and everything else, it is totally different from the first film. The first one played it very, very seriously, whereas this movie plays it for popcorn fun. It is very 80s style. I love the look of the film. I love the fact that the music they chose was from the 80s. It's got a very different flair. And I didn't expect that coming from the director of 47 Meters Down. I really did not expect that. So that's one of the bigger surprises for me, was that I didn't have a lot of expectations going into it. Yes, I was excited, but at the same time I had my reserves. They exceeded my expectations. I actually really love this movie. I love it a lot more than the first one. So I recommend The Strangers Prey at Night. I think it's a fun horror ride. I think any fan of horror is gonna get enough to say I like it. Not saying it's great. I personally wanted to put it on my list because it's one of the top horror films of the year for me. Now I'm moving on to number 7, which is another horror film which I greatly enjoyed, and I didn't think it was going to be that as effective as it was, and that is A Quiet Place. This movie for me is what horror films ought to be from here on out. I think that any horror film should take a page out of the book of A Quiet Place, because they did everything a horror film needs to do. Granted, yes, it's PG-13, but it didn't need blood. It really didn't have a whole lot of jump scares for me. They were more like jaw-dropping moments, where it was just like, whoa, they went pretty far with that for a PG-13. I like the fact that the film plays on its silence. It makes people shut the hell up in a movie theater. That was a really cool idea. Now, I didn't see the film in theaters, but I really enjoyed even watching it on Blu-ray, and it was definitely one of the best movies in terms of quality. And I love John Krasinski. I love Emily Blunt. I think they're both fantastic in this movie. And being the fact that they had to stay quiet the entire movie, that takes a lot of balls. I have to give them a lot of credit for that. So that's definitely why this movie is high on the list at number 7. Now, number 6, this is going to be a lot of people's number 1s. This just wasn't for me. Number 6 is Avengers Infinity War. The reason it's not higher on the list is because I'm a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it's not to the point for me where I feel like yes, the movie had tons of action, great action. The movie has tons of replayability. I just didn't think that this movie was like the best. I didn't think this. I think there were other films that were a little bit better. There's not a whole lot to say on that front. I feel like, yes, this movie is definitely the best of the MCU. In my personal opinion, I cannot wait for Avengers Endgame. So I will definitely give it the credit of saying this is the best MCU film to date. I can watch this movie a lot and not get sick of it at all. But it just did not hit the top 5 for me. Now, moving into the top 5. This was kind of difficult, but I'm very proud of the 5 that I came up with that I really enjoyed above Infinity War. Number 5 is Upgrade. It is the second directorial effort from Leigh Whannell, who is the co-creator of Saw and Insidious. The look, the feel, the action of this movie is incredible. Absolutely, I cannot say enough about this movie. It is so much fun from start to finish because you're on this ride and you actually, in a way, get to be the character of Gray from the movie. I think the fact that when the camera moves as he's doing the action scenes, I personally never seen anything like it. I think it's so much fun. When I saw the trailer, my jaw was on the floor until the end of the trailer, and I was like, that is the #1 film of the year for me. I have to see this movie. When I got it, I was completely 100% sucked in from start to finish, and this is a movie I've watched already like at least 8 times since I bought it. So this is definitely a great movie. It's a great action film. It's got a lot of it's actually got a lot more gore in it than I expected it to, but that's what makes it half the fun. So I definitely say check out Upgrade for sure. Now, number 4 is a movie that people just, I think, are going to be like, it's a very divisive horror film. On top of that, it's another horror film on my list, but I'm a huge fan of horror. I'm a huge fan of action, so this list is going to be mostly action and horror. Number 4 is Hereditary. I hear a lot of critics say that this movie is probably one of the absolute scariest films of all time. I disagree. I think it's one of the most well-told horror films of our generation. I think this is definitely the Get Out of this year. I think of 2018, as what Get Out was for 2017, this is the 2018 Get Out. I love every piece of this movie, and the fact that it's a slow burn. I don't always like a slow burn, but this one just did it correctly. It definitely, you felt dread, you felt tension, you felt like it's just one of those movies. I can't give any spoilers away. It's hard to talk about without giving spoilers away. I just say, not to mention this movie also has the performance of the year. I think Toni Collette is phenomenal. Now, if you don't know who Toni Collette is, she was in films like The Sixth Sense. She was the mother in The Sixth Sense. She should be nominated for Best Actress of the Year for this movie. Her portrayal of the mother in this movie is just crazy good. Anybody who sees this movie would agree with me. She is phenomenal, and she deserves Best Actress of the Year. If she doesn't get nominated for at all, I've lost faith in the Academy completely. She deserves every award for this part and for this movie. I really enjoy this movie. Yes, it has its flaws. It has its moments where it doesn't a whole lot make sense. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but there's still so much enjoyment to be had. There's so much that goes on in this movie that you're just kind of really sucked into, like, what happens next. And that's one of the things I love about Hereditary. Definitely suggest checking that movie out. It's definitely worth your time. At least seeing it for sure once. Now, my last 3, it was hard to place 3 and 2 because I was both super ecstatic for these films, and it was very hard to figure out what place to put them in. But what I chose was number 3 is going to be Mission Impossible Fallout. This is my favorite of the entire series. I think it's definitely got the most action. It's got the most, visually, it's the most insane movie of the year. I love the fact that the Henry Cavill's cocked the arms kind of moment in the film just kind of got me adrenaline-ized, and it wasn't even in the script. It just kind of happened on the fly, and I think that was brilliant. When I saw that in the trailer, I was just like, oh, I'm sold. I don't need any more. You don't even need to show me anymore. That scene alone just made me go, okay, I'm totally in. Take my money. I don't care. And I'm a fan of Tom Cruise. Now, a lot of people aren't these days, but I am a huge fan of Tom Cruise. I cannot wait to see how many more Mission Impossibles he can possibly throw out at us. I don't know where they could go with Part 7 at this point. I think it's like they've almost in a way they top themselves every single time. It's like the Fast and the Furious. They just top themselves every single time with action set pieces. And not to mention, this is the most realistic action I've seen in a movie. It's just nuts. It's crazy. I say if you're not a fan of Mission Impossible, this will definitely make you a fan of Mission Impossible. Before that, I would have said Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Fallout beat Ghost Protocol for me, and I never thought it was going to happen. Definitely check this movie out. Now, number 2 was a surprise. I saw the trailer, and I knew it was a done deal. I had to see this movie, and I saw it, and I was totally 100% having a blast with this movie, and that movie is Overlord. I love this movie so much. I almost wanted to put it at number 1. I had a very hard time not putting it at number 1. Not since probably the Evil Dead remake did I have so much fun with a horror film in theaters. I love this movie in all of its gory glory. This movie is definitely, if you're a fan of video games, you're gonna have reminiscence of Castle Wolfenstein. That game is practically the movie. I mean, if this wasn't a direct adaptation, I would say it's a pretty good adaptation, but it's not. It's its own thing. And I originally thought that this was going to be a Cloverfield film because it was almost in a way marketed that way. It was basically like the way the hype was going around was saying, oh yeah, this is gonna be the next Cloverfield film. And after I think Paradox came out on Netflix, I think they probably got the hint that we should probably just can that and just stick this as its own thing. And that was a good choice because I can't say enough about this movie. It's a lot of fun. It is super well acted. It's a B movie that's disguising itself as an A-list film, and it pulls it off on every stretch. I love this movie a lot, and I think this is definitely a movie that everybody needs to see, even if you're not a fan of horror. It's a great World War II film on top of the fact that it's a horror movie. So I definitely say check out Overlord. You're not going to be let down at all. I don't think you're going to ever be disappointed in this film. But coming in at number 1 is Blind Spotting. This is by far the most heartfelt film of the year for me. Now, I'm sure a lot of people will disagree, and there's a lot of other films out there that came out that are very worthy contenders. But this movie just hit me at my core. I love movies that take place within a certain couple of days, where it's just a day in the life of a couple of guys who live in a certain part of town, and it's just chronicling what they do day to day and how they live their lives. It's just a couple of best friends who do their own thing, and I love this movie for that. I like a movie that's simple but effective in the way it's told, and it's got a ton of humor, a lot of heart, and this is definitely the type of film where I would put it so high above every other film I put this year. There was no question. It was better than Overlord, and I didn't think Overlord was going to get beat, or Mission Impossible Fallout. So kudos to Blind Spotting for being a drama that sucked me in and had me feeling all the feels from start to finish. Let's hope that 2019 can give me a number 1 that'll outbeat Blind Spotting for not only best drama, but definitely best film in general of the year. So thank you guys all for watching. I hope you guys got a lot out of this. If you guys have not seen any of these films on the list, I definitely say, you know what, check them out. You might be surprised at which ones you might like and which ones you might not. I think that there's a lot of fun to be had on each film. So if you guys are curious, let me know in the comments below. Let me know which film you like the most. Let me know if there's ones you just disagree with. But until next time, thank you guys for watching, and I will have the worst of 2018 coming at you very, very soon.